The NBA has seen its fair share of villains over the course of its history. Today, players seem to be friends more than foes, but if there's one who stands above the rest as the main villain, it's Dillon Brooks. Brooks famously poked the bear in LeBron James in last year's playoffs. This ultimately led to his departure in Memphis. This led to questions of if Brooks likes to play the villain role and if he takes it too far. Should Brooks have talked trash to LeBron James in last year's playoffs? Was Brooks's taunting the reason why the Memphis Grizzlies fell to the Los Angeles Lakers in 6 games? In this Hoopsha Story 26 documentary, we will dive into the villainous life of one Dillon Brooks, when it comes to the famous poke the bear comments in the Memphis Grizzlies and Los Angeles Lakers playoff series. The Grizzlies were the higher-seeded team, being the 2nd seed, while the Lakers were the 7th seed. Still, most people were giving LA the advantage since the Lakers looked like a much better team after their big midseason trade pickups. Also, the Grizzlies' best player, Ja Morant, injured his hand in Game 1. This led to Morant missing Game 2, and even when he returned, Morant didn't play at the same level as we are used to seeing. So, it's hard to put all of the blame on Brooks's shoulders, but his antics certainly didn't help. Still, Brooks doesn't mind playing the role of the villain. In fact, he enjoys it. Everyone wants to hate on something. Brooks said, "Everyone can't be the hero," says Brooks. "I'd rather be what was chosen for me." But why was the villain role chosen for Brooks? This image of being the bad guy didn't start with his time on the Grizzlies. No, in fact, it started when he was in college as a member of the Oregon Ducks. It was the 2016 Sweet 16, and Brooks's Ducks were taking on the Duke Blue Devils, who were coached by the legendary Mike Krzyzewski. The Ducks were going to easily win the game, leading 79-68 with just 11 seconds remaining in the game. Brooks had the ball at the top of the floor, behind the three-point line. The shot clock was at 3 seconds, and rather than just dribble the shot clock out, Brooks decided to fire up a 3, which he hit. After the game, Coach K met Brooks to shake his hand, but he immediately scolded him, saying, "You're too good of a player to do that." Coach K was clearly upset with Brooks, who replied by saying, "I'm sorry, Coach." Since Brooks entered the NBA in 2017, he's had multiple incidents of being a villain, not even counting his drama with LeBron James in last year's playoffs. For starters, Brooks has had beef with another villain in the NBA, Draymond Green. The two have had their fair share of drama, including when Brooks kept his face pushed against the ball and in Green's arms while Green held the ball. Brooks has gone on record, stating that he's not a fan of Green. "I don't like Draymond at all," Brooks said. "I just don't like Golden State. I don't like anything to do with them. Draymond talks a lot, gets away with a lot, too. His game is cool, with Golden State. But if you put him anywhere else, you're not going to know who Draymond is. He plays with heart, plays hard, knows the ins and outs of their defense. I guess that's why they like him over there." This was pretty harsh by Brooks, an unproven NBA player, to basically call out a 4-time NBA champion, who is also a former Defensive Player of the Year winner. Still, this is who Brooks is, a player who is not afraid to stand up for himself, and for that, you have to give him his props. Brooks hasn't just had run-ins with Draymond Green over the years. He's also gotten into it with Donovan Mitchell, who has labeled Brooks as a player who takes cheap shots. Brooks has also gotten into it with Russell Westbrook on multiple occasions. This includes Westbrook calling Brooks trash while he was at the free throw line. Brooks has called Theo Pinson of the Dallas Mavericks a cheerleader, and he was famously denied a jersey swap with Kyrie Irving. Yes, Dillon Brooks's villainous ways led to one of the most embarrassing moments for a player in league history. After a game between Brooks's Memphis Grizzlies and Kyrie Irving's Dallas Mavericks, Irving and Brooks appeared to be swapping jerseys. This has become a tradition certain NBA players do after a game. Usually, it's between star players, something Brooks is normally not associated with. The thing is, Irving took off his jersey and handed it to Brooks, who took his jersey off. The two exchanged in a handshake and Irving left without taking Brooks's jersey. Ouch. This might have been embarrassing, but the next incident was downright disgusting. In a game against the Miami Heat during the 2022-2023 season, Brooks shoved a cameraman, which resulted in the cameraman getting injured. Brooks was fined $35,000 for the incident, but surprisingly, he was not suspended. Still, to injure someone who was just doing their job is pretty villainous, to say the least. After Brooks and his Memphis Grizzlies were knocked out of the playoffs by LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers, people pointed the finger at Brooks. For one, Brooks poked the bear, as mentioned earlier. Also, Brooks underperformed in the series. During the 2022-23 season, Brooks averaged 14.3 points per game. In the playoffs against the Lakers, Brooks put up 10.5 points while shooting just 31.2% from the field. This led to Brooks being the scapegoat in the series loss, and ultimately, the Grizzlies cut ties with Brooks. Of course, any team in the league would love to have a player like Dillon Brooks on their roster. His fierce, never scared attitude can fire up his teammates, and he's actually a pretty good defender. Brooks is one of those players you hate to play against but love to play with, and this is why the Houston Rockets signed him to a 4-year, $80 million deal. Before Brooks would take the floor for the Rockets, Brooks donned a Canadian jersey in the 2023 FIBA World Cup. It would be here, on the international stage, where the villain became a hero. Brooks played incredible defense for Team Canada, helping his squad rank first in points allowed per 40 minutes. Brooks's great play earned him the title of Best Defensive Player at the 2023 FIBA World Cup. The defense played by Brooks also helped Team Canada finish third, winning the bronze medal, which was higher than Team USA, who finished fourth. Yes, Brooks shut up a lot of his haters with his play, at least for a little. Of course, once a villain, always a villain in the NBA, and the love for Brooks would quickly fade away. This was no truer than in a matchup against the Golden State Warriors in October. The Warriors, led by Stephen Curry, defeated the Rockets 106-95. Now, the loss by the Rockets dropped them to 0-3 on the season, but Houston would turn things around quickly. What stood out was Curry's antics directed at Brooks and his comments after about Brooks. During the game, at one point, Curry juked Brooks 3 times in about 2 seconds before drilling a 3 over the defensive specialist. After making the 3, Curry turned around and delivered his best impression of Kevin from Home Alone, placing his hand up at his cheeks. After the game, Curry said he knows Brooks's reputation and how he doesn't get caught up in it, but Curry did mention the history his team has with Brooks. This history goes beyond just his beef with Draymond Green. In the 2022 playoffs, during a second-round matchup between the Warriors and Grizzlies, Brooks committed a hard foul on the Warriors' Gary Payton II. This foul was called a flagrant 2, and rightfully so, as Payton II ended up with a fractured elbow. This hard foul apparently has not left Curry's or his teammates' minds. But does Brooks care? We hardly doubt it. Ultimately, like every other player in the league, Brooks strives for that ultimate prize. An NBA championship. Villains have found success in the league and won titles. This includes the Miami Heat version of LeBron James, Kevin Durant when he jumped ship to the Golden State Warriors, and the entire Detroit Pistons franchise during its bad boy days. So, yes, the villain inside Dillon Brooks could ultimately be rewarded with an NBA championship. The question of if that will happen remains unanswered, but there's one thing we know for sure. Dillon Brooks is having a blast being the NBA's biggest villain, and he's not going to change for anyone.